Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode, whatever, on Wednesday. I'm pleased and honored to have my guest tonight is Connie Steele, and I'm going to have her introduce herself because I'm not going to do her justice. She's a jack of all trades, and she's going to teach us how to be CEOs of ourselves and to build our brand and become phenomenal independent entrepreneurs and just self-loving individuals all around. So take it away. Kind of tell the audience, tell the viewers a little bit about you. And yeah, I can't tell your story better than you do.
Thank you so much for even having me on the show. So I am an author, an executive consultant, a podcaster, a marketer, a business and career strategist, a future of work junkie, a mom, a martial artist. I mean, that's my career mashup, I like to say. I am not one-dimensional like many of us. And I think all of us have gone through our career journey and trying to figure out what's that unique combination that makes us us. And so for my career, I actually started off in the corporate world. So I spent much of my career in technology, in the technology space, in strategy and marketing, and worked my way up. Just like a lot of us thought, hey, it's that linear sequential path where, it's about the title, it's about moving up and getting that prestige. And then you hit there and you're like, this is not it. This doesn't fit. And so I left 9 years ago and decided I wanted to take a different path. I wanted to have more freedom and flexibility to find my work-life balance. I have children. At the time, they were quite young, and I couldn't do the executive thing and really feel fulfilled. So since then, I've been running my own consulting practice and helping tech companies kind of scale up their marketing efforts by bridging the gap between strategy and execution. And along the way, through my own podcast, I was interviewing people and really understanding their stories on how they broke the inertia and were able to create that momentum in their business and in their lives. And I saw a pattern that was happening, that fundamentally people were changing and what it is they wanted out of work, the way they were going about work, the way they were thinking about work. All that culminated into a thesis on what I believe was happening at a very human level that wasn't being told. And here we are today, where I launched the book, Building the Business of You. So hopefully that helps to start it off.
It does help. And I want to say hi to some people who are already here. Donna is an entrepreneur herself, and she's joining. And I believe that she'll have some questions. And Justin's here as well. Thank you both for tuning in. And feel free to ask Connie any questions or myself as you go along the way. And I think that's I think that's true. And I know that we have spoken before and we've spoken about COVID, but really this was a movement before COVID. I think that people began to realize that the profit isn't always in the dollar sign, and that if you want fulfillment in your life, you really have to go an alternative path. And oftentimes that includes a side gig and a side hustle that, and I told you how the last time I spoke with one of my business mentors, and he said, sometimes you have to work your 9 to 5 to have enough income to fuel your passions from 5 to 9.
Absolutely. I think, the side hustle, maybe many of you guys, I'm sure many of you know somebody who's already doing a side hustle or you're pursuing a side hustle. But the reason why you're also seeing so many people pursue that is, one, to minimize the risk of, the world of work that exists today. A lot of us recognize that, having that one career, that one job isn't going to necessarily guarantee that you have a steady stream of income. So that's one thing. But another piece is that all of us are looking to grow and explore different things that we have such passion for. And because of technology, it's enabled us to do that. We can pretty much go on the web and learn a different skill, whether it's, being a designer, a developer, a marketer for that matter, or learning how to sell something on eBay, what have you. But there are ways to monetize various interests. And there are infinite ways to learn how to do that. And there are tons of podcasts that are out there that teach you. So the Side Hustle Show that's been around for years, it's all about that. And people see it's a way where They can explore various interests, make money, but realize, wait, maybe this is a path that could be part of my career. Maybe it's what I pursue full time. And so, it gives you an opportunity to build that career mashup that I like to say, that ultimately lets you reflect all of you. Because none of us really are just defined by one thing anymore.
That's true. And I think that that's what makes us so complex and unique and really more interesting. The people that I find to be interesting who stimulate me intellectually are the people who are diversified. And I don't mean that just in a professional sense. I mean, just in an all-around general sense of their lives, people who, have fulfilling relationships and professional endeavors and that type of thing, and really, and positive relationships. I think they're the people who really make the world a happier place.
100% agree. I mean, you sharing your story the last time we chatted, where you talked about what your day job was and then getting into podcasting, but also into coaching and then all these other areas where it fulfills you, right? And
It does.
it gives you a level of satisfaction. But at the end of the day, our goals are so different that we want to be happy and fulfilled. And if you think about it, none of our goals anymore are strictly defined by just, money, which it used to be. It was money and sort of some level of prestige and the material things. It is this desire to have an impact, this desire to, showcase or have work-life balance or whatever it is. But when you have multiple goals where you realize, wait, all of those things lead to a greater sense of fulfillment and happiness, then there's no one path that you would ever really take that can do all of that. So naturally, it makes sense that people are trying to do multiple things in parallel path because you can. But if you're able to then turn that into really this portfolio career where you monetize these different income streams, that creates a level of stability on one sense and from a financial sense, but it also creates something where, it lets you continue to build on these great skills you have, your talent stack, such that you create such a unique reflection of you that builds your brand, right?
Okay.
There's only one unique you.
I want to bring up something that Justin said, so I'm going to bring his comment up, and I have a little bit of a delay, so I want to make sure I get the right comment. And
Sure.
he's saying podcasting, there are lots of rival podcasters, and I think that's true, but I think it brings up a really great point that we're really running our own race. We really can't compete with anybody because there's always going to be somebody out there who's more intelligent than you are, more successful. Well, maybe not always. The hope is, but you're always going to have competitors in life, and I don't think that you can view people as competitors. You're just using them as a catalyst to improve your skill set and make yourself better.
100% agree. So when you think about this new world of work and why I state in there that you now have to be the CEO of you is because the reality is that you're now a product, service on the web. When anybody wants to learn about you, they can go onto Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or what have you, and they make a determination of their level of engagement or their desire to engage with you or not. And it's based on how you position yourself. So you could have, for example, if you want to be in podcasting, you could be in the same genre. You might cover the same topic, but there's something unique about you and the way you deliver that message. Or maybe there's a different angle of that topic you take that takes off, but that is specific to you. So as the CEO of you, you're just like any other business. And what businesses need to do is to determine what makes them unique, what their value proposition is, so they can position themselves accordingly. Same thing for now, an individual. You need to define your brand. Who are you? What makes you special? What are you passionate about? That does take time and energy. But to get there, and this is just what all companies do too, you just now need to do it for yourself, is do strategic planning. Strategic planning really comes down to understanding the market, understanding where there's white space opportunities, doing that research and analysis to then come up with an initial plan. Those goals, objectives, strategies, tactics, and then that helps you determine where to experiment and test along the way. Just know that when you start this path, just like any company, you might not hit it right at the gate. The whole point is to have some idea and do the homework to put it together to help you get down that path.
Now, what about some concrete strategies? I mean, let's say somebody
Sure.
is passionate and, I'm going to use Justin for an example because I know him fairly well. He's ambitious and he's a young person. He's just starting college and he'd really like to be a baseball coach someday. And we've given him some strategies and tips and strategies. And he's actually somebody who follows every piece of advice that we've given him on the network. And he's gotten himself an internship actually as a softball coach. And so he's very excited about that. But how do you build your brand? How do you start out as a young individual? I mean, is it making a social media presence? Is that really where you're starting? And what are the best platforms for that in different genres?
So I'd even take a step back before you even think about the platform. It's not about the platform first. It's not about, the channels or the tools. It's who are you? What is your positioning? Meaning, what is it that uniquely makes you you? So where that starts is doing the homework on yourself and saying, where do I add value to the audience that I want to serve? Now, a lot of people may have taken branding courses and I do branding for a living, but that can be hard. So the where to start is do that self-evaluation to understand what are my strengths? Where do I know I deliver value? How is that value reflected? Is it the way that I coach, communicate, provide tips, provide tools to this audience, but really collect all that information? That's one piece. But then layer that on with people who know you really well. In the corporate world, a lot of times, you get these 360-degree reviews. And these are people that are peers of yours. They're your boss. If you're a manager, they're people that report to you, but they have a different lens on you, but is incredibly valuable because sometimes, you just can't see certain great things about yourself. So in this case, ask those people who are close to you, your parents, your friends, partners, what really makes me unique? Where do I offer the most value to those people and what it is that I do? Because they may have incredible descriptors of you, which then help to shape, I am about X, Y, and Z. I deliver service in this particular way. That starts to center you. And then as you compare that to other people who are in the same profession, see how they're positioning themselves. So you have a point of comparison and you say, oh, and there's nothing wrong with kind of taking from that and leveraging it, but you might have a unique spin. But you have to understand how to express yourself. That's that messaging. That is a core piece first, because that's then what you write in your LinkedIn profile. That's what you write in your Instagram profile. That's all those things first. Like to put your profile first is who are you? And then so for me, for example, when I ventured off and, doing my own consulting business, I'm like, what am I going to be about? And I had to go through that homework exercise myself because now it was about me. Now about me doing branding for a company. And I thought about that. I'm like, wait, let me go back and look at all the testimonials people gave me on LinkedIn, talk to some really close friends, thought about the way that I think and how it's different. It's not because I happen to do brand marketing for tech companies. It was more of the way I worked. And it was, for me, this ability to really think strategically, but also be able to execute on that and operationalize it. And I'm like, that's the difference. So in everything that I wrote about myself and how to position myself on these different channels, that's where I started. I'm like, I am about this notion of bridging the gap between that big picture and being able to implement that and using all this different kind of language to communicate that. And then so I could be consistent in who I was. And I just continued to build on it. That's how you build a brand. Building a brand is standing for something and standing for something very consistently. Building a brand isn't about the social channel first. You have to stand for something. People have to then believe in what you stand for. They buy off on it. They believe you. That's when you start to build the brand. And it's not about the colors. It's not about the logo. It's about the essence of who you are. So if you think about all those major companies that you follow, it's not about the logo of Nike, right? It's about what they stand for. Or any of these other even food companies now that are really interesting in the spaces that they play. But that's what I would say is realize that first. That's kind of the deep homework that you need to do. And that's part of this whole thing that I call spying the trends. It is, again, really understanding what's out in the marketplace, triangulating that. And that's where you see this white space opportunity. So I hope that helps.
I think it does. But I also want to talk about a little bit about, sometimes people don't have a support system, and I think they have to rely on themselves. I think you have to modify your mindset, because there are people who are alone or who are raised in a toxic family and really don't necessarily have that validation. But I certainly want to encourage them to recognize the value and beauty in themselves, even if they don't have, those relationships and there's always somebody, a teacher, a counselor, a pastor. Reach out here. I will certainly tell people the value, because all people have value, of course. And I think that's sometimes, especially young people, sometimes not I won't say the majority, but they get lost in the idea that the opinions of others really shape our identity, when really it doesn't. I think that you have, once you break free, when you get to be a little bit more seasoned like we are, and you realize, one of the greatest pieces of advice someone ever gave me was to stop letting the opinions of others influence and impact my self-worth.
I 100% agree. So I'll even say that is something that resonates with me so much, only because I've had that too. So being first generation Asian American, there are pressures that I had where it was all about academics. I had to conform, and I felt like I was put in a box. I'm like, I had to do X, Y, and Z. And I was told directly at times, like, well, you're probably not good at this. You're probably not good at this. You're probably not good at this. You probably fit here and you probably fit there. And that wears on you, right? So you start believing it.
So
and at some point you have to shift that.
I want to ask about that, because I am also, I am the executive director here of diversity programming, and that resonates with me, because I have interviewed, I won't say several, I'd say several Asian Americans, and it seems to be is that a cultural, because they all have said similar stories, similar tales about their parents and the expectations that were placed on them. And I think that that's something else, that we all have cultural expectations and stereotypes that, we say they're stereotypes, but they're stereotypes because there is some accuracy rooted in them. And I think that they have roots somewhere. Is that true in the Asian community? And we don't want to say in a blanket, but I have found that there really are some high expectations, even if it isn't in the Asian community. When you have high expectations from your parents, it's a whole different, multifaceted component of your identity. Is that true? Or I don't want to speak for you, of course.
Yes, it is. Well, when you are a first generation child of any immigrant family in general, your success in this country is a reflection of your family's success, right? So they came to the States to have a better life, and they want to give the best to their children. And so they put everything into their children. And so you feel the pressure of that. And I think a lot of us grew up in that model too, of, academics are the focus, or that's a known model. Go to school, do great in school, go to the best college that you can, try to pick those majors where it can lead you down the path to opening opportunities, right? So then you can interview at top companies, right? So if you've made it, right, you all of a sudden now work at Google or Twitter or what have you, whatever people define as that level of prestige, right? So there is this known model of following a particular path, but yet does that fit you or not? For a lot of people, it doesn't, but there are expectations, and you feel that pressure because you see this, there's an investment because education is so important, but you feel it because you are being compared. There is this, I know I had a lot. It's like, oh, so-and-so's kid got X on the SAT and is going to Stanford, is doing this. I don't even know who they are, but it was constant. It's a constant reminder is that not so subtle. They're great. Like, I hope you can be there. And so you feel it. And at some point you have to realize, wait, who am I doing this for? It has to be for me. And if you let that kind of wear on you, that it's about, if it's for someone else, then you're never going to be able to accelerate and find the thing that you will accelerate at, because you're always trying to please someone else.
I think that's a difficult journey for parents to let. We all have expectations, and many of my viewers know that, you know, my oldest son has Asperger's, and I remember when he was initially diagnosed, and it, you know, he faced some I don't want to say severe, but he had some monumental challenges that he had to overcome. And I remember when we got that diagnosis, I thought to myself, you know, you have all these hopes and ideals. And I said, well, he may not be captain of the football team, and he may not be valedictorian now. And I think that I had to realign. I didn't lose hope, but I had to realign my hopes for him. And I think that that's hard for parents to let go of. I remember it was a really devastating time for me, because it was about me. You know, he didn't even have time to formulate his dreams or passions or know what he wanted to do. He may have never had a desire to be on the football team, and that's just hypothetical. I don't know or in the White House, which of course I wouldn't wish that on anybody now. But, you know, you think to yourself, well, is he going to be president? Is he going to be an astronaut? Is he going to be? And it really was a teachable moment for me. And I think that, and hopefully parents are listening today and realize that, you know, we are here to shape their the ethical components of their character, but then we have to loosen up and let them pursue the passions that they're destined to have. And I think that that's tough for parents to do.
It is. And now that, you know, I'm a parent, I see some of those characteristics that my parents had on me, that I try to catch myself, because sometimes I realize, oh, wait, am I being hard on them? And it's this recognition of how you need to redefine success for your kids that fits with who they are, so that they can accelerate and leverage all their talents, which may be different than what you see is the model of what you believe they could be successful in, right? And let them explore, let them try. Because I know for myself, if, you know, you kind of put boundaries, almost too many, like, okay, you're this, they start to believe it. They're never going to reach their full potential in areas that they didn't even know they had talents in. I didn't know I would go into marketing. The only reason why I actually went into marketing and strategy, and first in marketing, is I went to the library because I'm like, what am I going to do with this quantitative degree? All I know is that I have to get a math degree, true to stereotype. And I ended up getting a stats degree. I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? And the expectation was, you got to go to grad school. All right, well, what do I even do in grad school? I have no idea. So I went to the library, got a vocational book, happened to look up marketing. I'm like, wait, I love this. This is really interesting. It's like this right brain, left brain thing. It could be analytical, and I'm gonna give it a go. And I fell in love with it. But I had nobody telling me that. Nobody would have. So you gotta give your kids this opportunity to explore, because that might be something they're really passionate about, and then nurture it and give a perspective to foster that. But if it's all about what you believe is, it's this path, that's not really true, because there's so many new jobs that have been created. I mean, 10 years ago, there are a lot of different jobs that don't exist today, because the rate of technology is really developing new opportunities that people would have never thought of. So if you could build some core skills and fundamentally this, you know, that growth mindset, I want to learn, I want to, you know, try and experiment, but continually grow and build those communication skills, those problem solving skills, those soft skills. That is really more important than focusing on those hard skills, because honestly, hard skills you can pretty much learn anywhere, but those soft skills are really what's going to accelerate you in your career. And it's not something I knew at all. But once I was in, you know, those corporate jobs, I'm like, oh, interesting. Those people, it's not because they were the smartest person in the room necessarily. It was their ability to navigate different dynamics and communicate better, play the politics better, candidly. But there were other factors that helped them accelerate in a way that I never understood, because I was told it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. So, you know,
I want to bring up
go
two
ahead.
comments.
Yeah.
So Donna has a comment, and she's saying that she thinks that it's a difficult journey for young adults. That they feel the pressure from what their parents want, and they have to pay back student loans, sometimes for for endeavors that they're not interested in. So I think that's true, Donna. And I think
100% agree.
I agree. And then I want to go backtrack to something that Justin said, and I have to find it because he has. So this is an interesting story. I just heard a story on my way home. I try to listen to educational or motivational videos sometimes on the way home, and it says being a baseball player, you have a 1 to 99% of making it, and that's what his guidance counselor said. So I heard a really interesting story, and because it was on the radio on the way home, I didn't get the name of the individual, but it was this young Australian man who said that when he was born, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he had a tough battle. And he said he remembered when he was 7 years old, he heard the doctor speaking to his mother and saying that they had a new drug that they hadn't even experimented with it on humans yet. And they asked if there were 25 children in the hospital at that time, and they administered it to 25 of the children, and 24 of the 25 died. He was the only survivor. And he said then when he was 7, he overheard the doctor telling his parents he had a dream of becoming a baseball player. And he overheard the doctor telling his mother that he would never hold a job. He would never play baseball. He had, I think they said he had a 4% chance at survival, or they said he had he had very slim chance of survival. And his mother said, I don't want to hear about I don't want to hear about the chances of his death. Tell me what the chances are that he's going to survive. And I forget what the percentage was, but I believe it was 4%. And the mother said, that's what we're going to concentrate on, the 4%. And I didn't hear how old he was, but at the time of the speech, he was certainly I would say he's certainly in his 30s. And he said he did come over, and he got to play as a teenager, he said, but unfortunately I think he was 18, and then he had a heart attack on the baseball field, so he didn't get to pursue that dream. But he is a motivational speaker, and I thought that's very telling, Justin. Concentrate on that 1%. The 99% isn't your concern, just but concentrate on what you can do to be what part of that 1%.
I do agree. When you have a very clear goal and you're working towards that goal, but realize that it may take twists and turns to get there. But if you were, and this is part of the thing that I espouse in the book too, is that when you're clear on what it is you want to do, what is that strategic plan to get there? And also be okay with the fact that you're going to get things thrown at you from left field and things are going to change. But if you're very clear on that and you realize, all right, let me break down this big, hairy, scary goal into those smallest parts where you know you're making progress. So, being that baseball coach and then learning, meeting other people in this space, getting connected to folks. Each of those things are opportunities to build this knowledge that you have and build expertise, of which builds that breadth of skills as well as depth. And you're continuing down that path, but you're also acquiring new insights and information on, all right, this is what I want right now, but in a couple of years, it may be different. But you've learned so much that you could say, you know what, I'm going to pivot left. And I'm actually going to maybe pursue something else. Maybe I want to be a sportscaster. Like, you love it, but you never even knew that there was this other path. Or maybe there's something else. It's all within this still passion of baseball. But, what's clear is that when you're very clear on what that goal is initially, you will make that progress to get there. But also realize there are just different avenues. It's not just one straight line path. You will go left and right and all around to get there.
So Donna's saying, do you think that men and women are off skills differently? I think men and women probably approach everything differently, but I'll let you go ahead.
Yes, I believe they do. So this is my own personal opinion. Women are by default much more relational, particularly the environments I've worked in. There's a desire for collaboration naturally, empathy, understanding, listening. What's very interesting is that if you were to read the articles and information that's out there now about the most important skills in today's work world and going forward, it's exactly those: to have empathy, to listen, to be able to support others, because look, it's pretty challenging right now for everyone, right? And when you're also now working in a world where it's becoming increasingly remote and hybrid, there's just different dynamics. Connecting with people is so important. And in a digital sense, you need to understand digital body language and read the room and sense if somebody's having a bad day or a good day, or they're stressed, or have some context of what their life is like, to connect with them, to feel like they're support, so they're going to give you your best work. If you're just going to be hard charging and like, yeah, okay, I see you, you're in your office, you're probably fine, just go get this done, you're not going to get the best out of workers. And so, for women, I think there's some just natural tendencies, I should say, that are there that make them probably a little bit better prepared in the soft skills area. But it's certainly things that, I've had many great male bosses too who have been like that. But to answer your question, yes, I think there are differences.
So Donna's agreeing with us, but she's also saying that the take is different. The men often have a built-in network that women need to cultivate and build, and I believe that's true too as well. I think not in every. Well, I'm going to let you field it, but I have some thoughts on it
too. Men understand I think it's just more too when you have this network of champions, supporters, sponsors, particularly in any kind of work environment, it just seems to be this natural understanding of like, okay, I'll help you, you help me, right? Women build a village, but in a very different way. And men are always out there networking, as you see, as many people have seen, whether they're golfing or going out or what have you, these interactions they have, they are building the network, whether it's social or whether it's for business. And they're just thinking about how they can leverage that for that next opportunity. It is harder for women, I think, for us to ask for help, being point blank, or thinking about what that network is, because networking for us and for a lot of people has sort of this 4-letter connotation, right? It's like, it's sleazy. Like, people are hitting me up. It feels like it's like a sleazy mattress salesman. It just isn't authentic. Women, we want to have that connection. And a lot of these networking events don't give us that. But the reality is that it's something that you absolutely have to do. But how do you do it in a way that's really about helping somebody else and building a friendship? So when you shift your mindset, which is one of the things that I talk about, how do you build your authentic network? Because that's so important as part of building the business of you. What does that look like? Like, you and I, we've got the chance to meet each other, and I feel like, wow, we hit it off. She's great. Joanne's now part of my network. If I think about, what she needs in her business, or the fact that she's a podcaster and she probably always is thinking about guests. Well, if anybody asks me, the natural default should be, wait, I know you could be a great match for Joanne in the different things that she does. And it's nothing for me. It's all about just thinking, how can I connect somebody? And what you're just trying to do is build these nodes of people where they could be helpful to you or to someone else in the future. And when you start to think of it that way, just like, for your kids, you'd absolutely build a network for your kids who could help them in every possible way. It's now focusing on yourself. What do you need to be successful? And being mindful of that. And the way to think about this too is, and as part of the book too, when you're clear about where it is you want to go, have that plan, you could share that with people, because everybody's like, oh, what are you up to? Well, I'm super passionate about X, Y, and Z. This is what I want to do. Really? That's fascinating. Tell me more. They might know of somebody who they could connect you to. They might know of a resource that could be valuable to you. But if you're not clear on what it is that you may want to do, it becomes really hard for others to help you. So it's really about getting that clarity for yourself and then communicating that out.
I agree. And Jason is joining the show as well. He tuned
Hi,
in. And
Jason.
he's an entrepreneur as well, and he's actually one of the admin here on the show. So hi, Jay. And Donna's coming up. This is a great point. And she's saying men were raised playing on teams and self-promotion, which is relatively new for women. And I think it's also complicated by the fact that although there are certainly great strides, there are men at the top of the executive chain who do not, who don't, I'm trying to say it diplomatically, but don't value the assets of women and attributes as much as they do men. And I think that that's just a fact. I mean, we've made great strides. I think, for instance, I was on a top level position in a national board when I worked in law enforcement. And I went into the meeting. I was one of the few people, the few women. I think there were 2 women. And the first year I was on the committee, they asked me if I would take the minutes of the meeting, and I did. But I will tell you this: the next year they asked me to sub-chair 2 committees, and the year after that they asked me to sub-chair 3. So I think they they underestimated my value, and once they saw how, and it sounds as if I'm a touch arrogant, but it's not. It's just that I earned that position, I earned that role. I took the notes, but I will tell you, because I took the notes, I was also the most knowledgeable person in the room, and that was awarded, and that was rewarded. And these were at the highest levels of state government and across the nation, and I felt pretty empowered when those men realized the significance and the role that a woman could play on the team. And I think that that's lacking in particularly in male dominated arenas.
I would agree. While there have been strides, as women, you do feel you have to prove yourself more in certain environments, and that's hard.
That's hard.
This gets
I
back to.
want to bring up
Go ahead.
something Jason said, because it's a tiny bit controversial, but true. He's saying that all of his business dealings in the business world, he's told men cost less for medical benefits, and part of the reason men are paid more and promoted more. He's not saying he agrees, and I hope he doesn't, because he's in trouble later. That's for sure. But I will say that that's true, and I think that it's because we're the ones who bear children. But the reality is, we bear you men. We brought you into the world, and I've seen that. I've seen that many times where women who are in their childbearing years are passed up for promotion because people don't want them to be out for 9 months. And it's not even 9 months anymore now. I mean, not 9 months, but their maternity leave. The maternity leaves are becoming lengthier and lengthier. People can stay out for a year now. And I think that plays into that issue as well. What do you think?
I do too. What's hard, I have 2 kids. I know that when I had children, there was a concern or guilt, like, okay, am I going to be able to keep up as much when I get back? Because it is pretty intense. So you absolutely feel the pressure, and you feel that you have to deliver more. Not fair, but in the end, this is why it's so interesting in this day and age, is that women have more options where they could take control. The fact is, you know what? If this doesn't fit me, I could still craft another career path such that it leverages all my talents. It enables me to do what I need to do for my family, in addition to grow my career in a very different way. And, it's unfortunate that there is this perspective, well, yeah, women cost more, but it's been proven too, the value that women bring and the dynamics that they bring in a work environment, because you have different personalities, right? If you have everybody of the same personality and style, you're not going to get anything done. You need to have a balance in general to move things forward. And so having that perspective that empathy, that ability to see a different side of things is going to give better performance. It's going to yield better outcomes for an organization. And I know there's been proof out there said, oh, wait, female-led companies also do outperform of those that are female CEOs. They do outperform others because they think of the people. At the end of the day, let's just remember, right? Companies are made up of people. And if you don't really connect with them and realize that it's about you not extracting, is not the best word, but how do you really connect with them so that they feel they can unleash all their potential and there's a mutual value exchange? Your company is never going to fully accelerate, right? Which is why everybody's leaving too. They're like, you know what? This doesn't fit. I'm not happy. I'm getting worked to death. I'm out. I'm going to take a different path now because I need to figure out what fits me.
I took a great leadership. I don't want to say, I don't know if I would classify it as a course, but it was pretty intense. It was about 2 weeks. And I believe the gentleman who taught Richard Branson, his father was actually the attorney for the Little Rock, I think it's a Little Rock 5, right? During the segregation period, he was a brilliant man, very intelligent. And I learned many, many things from him. But one of the most important things I learned from him was that you need your employees more than they need you. And that's the reality. And I see it, I've been in some toxic work environments and when you take into consideration people's personal circumstances, because we aren't geared and we aren't made to live to work. We work to live, to enhance our lives. And I think so many executives don't see that. And another point too I want to make is about women. I mean, we don't often see our value and our worth. And I think about that, early in my career, I gave and I'm a giver at heart. I would work like crazy. And even now I'm an overachiever in many ways. I was up all last night working on something actually for the network, but I think that now I know the value of my time, and my time is worth a lot. I'm pretty far in my career, and I think that the more, and I don't even want to say equate it to a dollar sign, but I know the value of my time, and I'm only going to invest it. I don't necessarily invest it in places that don't reciprocate. And I think that that's something I learned from myself. And that's part of building a brand and knowing your value and the profits where they lie in your life. And so I invest in things and I'm willing to help others, but I'm also going to invest in things that are going to give back to society, but also propel me forward in some respects.
In this day and age, you have to. And I think that's wonderful that you've now set those boundaries. You know the value that you deliver. But I agree that a lot of us do initially, or I know I struggled with that. What is the value that I deliver? In what way? How do I showcase that? And in today's work world, you have to stand out for yourself. Because let's face it, in a world where social is dominating a lot of the way that we communicate, you're attracted to certain personalities that have a specific persona, right? And they're standing out in some way. That's how people find out about you. They want to connect with you authentically. So it is really important for you to get comfortable with who you are, how you help the world, what you stand for in the world, what your purpose is. You hear a lot of these things that's out there in the marketplace of like, what's my purpose? What's my passion? And so forth. And it's hard to figure out what that initially is. I mean, those sound like, okay, I get it. But how do I even do that? Right? A lot of that's experimentation. You may have an interest. Go try it out. There's nothing wrong now with just try it out and seeing, does it fit me? Do I feel happy? Do I feel like I want to learn more? Do I feel like I can have an impact? Is it something I wake up getting excited about every day? And build on that. Because when you're young, and even if you have a lot of experience, sometimes you just don't know what you're really capable of. And it's so much of it is about giving you giving yourself the permission to try and build and then learn, wow, this is where I deliver incredible value and this is what makes me. And that over time builds that brand that helps you, ultimately gives you the opportunity to see what business opportunities can arise from that. But initially, it's not always clear. Your passions also may change. Your purpose may also change. And that's okay. Because again, in this new world of work, things are moving at a rate of change faster than ever before. There's new things that come up all the time. So give yourself the allowance to say, okay, right now, in this period of time, this is what I'm about. This is what value I want to add. This is what I'm going to try. And do it. Try it. Try to push past your fear of failure. Try to push past your fear of anxiety and shame. That's what all of us have because you're trying something new and nobody wants to feel like they've failed if they try something new. But all of us fail when we try something new. That's okay. We all get nervous. But you'd be amazed, right?
true.
When you start it, you're like, wow, I love it. I might not be so good initially, but I love it. And I want to get better and better and better. When you started podcasting, I'm sure that was a bit nerve-wracking. I know when I started podcasting, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to sound like. I know I love interviewing people. I've done it for my career, but listening to your voice the first time, you're like, oh God, I hate how my voice sounds. Oh, I don't sound good. I don't sound smart. I don't like this. And I'm my own worst critic, but I loved doing it. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm committed. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it. And I just got better and better and better at it. But cut yourself some slack. Nobody's perfect the first time they do it. It's not about perfection anymore, right? To build the business of you is not about striving for perfection out of the gate. Building the business of you is about you experimenting and figuring out what ultimately aligns to you. And it takes time. It takes research and analysis. It takes you ultimately building that plan and letting yourself be okay with being afraid, but figuring out, is that fear a result of you catastrophizing, like, oh my God, if I do this, I'm going to look silly, when really, no, you're not. It's just all in your head. So try, right? And then guess what? Once you do it, you build incredible skills along the way, which you never had before, of which then you would take those skills, use it for the next thing, you market it for whatever it is you want to do next. And then all of a sudden, wait, I just did these 5 things. I have these 5 new skills of which I never had before. I combine them together. And that makes me a completely unique person for a particular role. That makes me stand out. That's really how it's happened for a lot of people that I've interviewed.
I think so too. And I think that so many people live a fear-based life. And I was guilty of that myself for many, many years. And I think that I forget where I heard this or read this, or, I'm always into, how it is with self-development and personal development. So who knows what I read where, but, or hear or listen to. But one of the greatest things that I was ever told was, when you're really facing a fear, and of course, we're not speaking about a physical fear, a lion coming at us, but when we're facing a fear that is within our control to challenge ourselves, to really think, what's the worst thing that could happen? Let's say I'm giving a public speech, and and there have been times that I've been speaking in front of a room of 300 people, and then what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Someone's going to laugh at me. They may not like my speech. They may not respect me. All right, well, I gave it a shot, and the next time maybe they will. So I think that it took me a long time to come to that place. And I'm not saying that I'm totally there. I'm not. I still get nervous. I mean, I remember when I, was first doing a live program, I was sweating, and even the recorded ones, I would spend more time editing out the ums and so's and than the podcast took. A half-hour podcast, I would be editing for 4 hours.
Yes.
And then I thought to myself, what is the value of my time? Does anybody else notice it? Because I don't notice it when I'm listening to someone else, unless it's every other word or every other, 500 in a 30-second rant. But I thought to myself, do people really, are they really evaluating based on how many so's I say? And I had to retract and retreat from that.
I've exactly been through the same thing. I think I've been through that probably like a lot of us have through our entire lives and careers, because also just generationally, there in previous generations, there was this sort of striving, you strove for perfection. You have this one shot, you got to do it right. There's so much planning that's involved to get it right. But the reality is that in a lot of situations, it may not quite be it. And that's okay, because you don't really know what folks may want or what resonates. In, again, this shifted world, what I've noticed too is that it's more about the testing, learning, optimizing as you go, because you're never really going to know what hits exactly. You have an idea of what might hit well. Is it exactly it? No. But what is that? Some of you guys might have heard this because I come from tech, right? Minimum viable product or that you're going to do. What's that? That small task or experience that you could try to see if it's comfortable and if that's the right thing. You learn because you put it out there, you do it, you learn. Did it work? Did it not work? Based on if it worked, now you have more information to do what's next. If it didn't work, then you're like, oh, it probably didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. Now I have more insight into how to take the next approach. But you also now have built some confidence by going through it. And you're like, oh, wait, maybe it wasn't that bad. I could do that again. Why don't I do it again?
I want to bring up 2 points that Justin's bringing up about communication. And I think they're 2 separate issues, but I want to, and keep in mind, he's a young person. So I want to bring this one up first.
Sure.
He's saying, no,
that's hard.
That's not the right one. That's not
okay.
the right one.
Try to help you, Justin, however I can.
Let's see. Yep, this one. So Justin is saying, how do you deal with mean and rude people in the workplace? And has anyone ever said a mean thing to you in the workplace?
Oh, sure. Like, I think for somebody who has not had somebody say a mean thing about you in the workplace, and I'm like, I don't know where you work because it doesn't exist. You deal with people. It's honestly no different than when you're a kid in school and you've dealt with bullies or dealt with people who have picked on you because you're different in some form or fashion. Absolutely, yes. You also, what you have to do in those situations is understand where that's coming from. It many times can come across as very personal. They're attacking potentially your character or your work, your style. But what's interesting is that you have to remove yourself from the situation. You have to understand who that person is, what their position is, what is the context around them, what could be driving their actions and their words. I'll give you an example. I'm sure many of you have had a crazy boss, or I shouldn't say, excuse my own there, but have had a very difficult manager. And they could be micromanaging, they could be condescending, they could be really unbearable in a lot of ways, and you take it personally. If you were to take a step back and think, my manager has a lot of pressure on them because their boss is also overbearing, a micromanager, difficult. That's a lot of pressure your manager might be going through. Their home life could also be challenging, or they are feeling really insecure about the work that they're doing. Many times, people's rude behavior stems from their own insecurity of their position, of the work that they're doing, of their performance. That's not in all cases, but so much of this is removing yourself from you taking it personally and saying, what could be going on with that manager or whomever is being rude to you? What is really driving their behavior? And taking a 360-degree view of the dynamics around them that could be making them be rude and mean to not just you, they could be rude and mean to everybody. So in your situation, it might be, am I the only person that they're rude and mean to? Let me ask other people. They're rude and mean to them. Oh, they're rude and mean to everyone. It's not just me. Why are they rude and mean to everyone? That could be their style, but their style is rooted in they're not happy in their job. They're not happy where they are. They're stressed out because of the pressure. So they're lashing out on everyone. Once you understand that, you're much more equipped to deal with it, because then it's not a personal thing. It's more like that's the issue they have to deal with. Then to bridge the gap, if there's a desire to bridge the gap with that person because you realize that they're actually a great person, they just need help, you can say, hey, I've noticed that maybe you have some challenges. I've noticed that things have been difficult. Is there anything I can do? And open the dialogue. They may just open up and tell you a whole bunch of stuff that's going on in their life that you had no idea. And it gives you so much more perspective on the actions that they're taking, their behavior, their words, and so forth. That took me a long time to understand. That is not something that you learn whatsoever when you start work. The tendency is, all right, I'm here to do my job. All of a sudden somebody's being rude, mean, or telling me I'm not doing something, and your reaction is, what did I do? Is it my fault? And it's not until you start to, again, remove yourself, understand really contextually what is going on, what could be driving that individual's behavior. Because it's never, ever just you in the workplace. So hopefully that's helpful. Justin, it's something that I dealt with early on. It's a skill that I've learned over time. You learn to read people. You learn to read the dynamics. This is what reading the room and navigating the politics means. It is understanding the secret connections that it seems like that all drive power, behavior, actions, activity. When you can master that and connect all those dots, you'll be much better equipped to deal with various situations at work.
I agree. I was going to say something very similar, but a little more concise. You covered it much more eloquently. I was going to just tell Justin, it's really a reflection of either their character or the state that they're in. And I think that you just need to be mindful of that. And I also want to bring up something else. As an NLP practitioner, communication is big to me, and I want to bring up his other comment. How do you deal with bad communication skills in a workplace? And I think that you want to be mindful, and I think that people don't realize this, that communication isn't based on, the way we say something and we think that we're projecting it. Communication isn't about the way we deliver something. It's about how people receive it. So we can tell someone, if I tell you 100 times, the couch is dirty. If somebody doesn't hear that, then maybe the communication failure is with ourselves, and we really need to address those deficits. You have to learn to become a skilled communicator to get people to reciprocate. So I think that that's something to be mindful of, and remember that communication is only effective and efficient when people receive it the way that we would hope are intended.
100% agree. I think what's hard is that you assume people understand what you're saying and don't always recognize the tone of voice that you have, the words that you use, style can be completely misinterpreted or even channel the way that you're communicating, whether you're doing it through phone, through email, what have you. And you're right. If the other person isn't receiving your message in the way that you intended, so there's work on your part to ensure that they do. And communication is just so important now, again, in this digital world where we're doing text, right? And there's certain things in text where you're like, what did they say? It completely loses some of the, context of what you meant. But there are so many more channels to communicate now. Infinitely more. So there's infinitely more ways to misinterpret what somebody is saying. And so that creates a ton of swirl in any work environment, right? How much havoc has everybody been exposed to where you get a message, you're like, I can't believe they said that. Or you've interpreted some way, and then you go talk to your coworker, like, did they really say that? And then, chaos can ensue. Let's just put it this way.
The same way with email, same thing. But so we're at the top of the hour already. I'm going to give you the last minute to tell people how they can reach out to you directly, find more about you, tell them where they can find the book and all of those good things. How can they find you?
Well, you can connect to me on LinkedIn. So just look up Connie Steele, Steele. You can also follow me on Instagram. So that's Connie Wang Steele. Really, those two channels. Primarily there. And also, I have my own podcast, and there's also at Strategic Momentum on Instagram. So please reach out and message me, and however you can help. And you can find the book. She mentioned this, bizofyou.co, bizofyou.co. And again, the intent is to really help create that clarity when all of us has felt, what am I doing in my career? How do I need to get grounded? The world of work is changing. What does it mean? And a very specific action plan to help you start building that strategic plan so that you can be the CEO of you at the end of the day. And it really entails all the skills that we've talked about on this show. So thank you, Joanne, for giving me the opportunity in the first place. And thank you, Justin.
So I wanted to say that. So Justin has, I can't top Justin's sentiment. So I'm going to show you this one too.
Oh, thank you. This is why I wrote the book, and this is why I enjoy doing this. If I can help others where, like I had to figure a lot of this stuff out on my own. I didn't know. A lot of us start off that way. When we start off at work, we have no idea.
He's saying, I loved your advice and I will take it to use. So I can't, I feel more empowered too, Justin. I'm going to use some of Connie's advice. So thanks so much for coming. I'm certainly, I've started reading the book. I haven't finished it. I'm finding it very valuable in my own life and in all of my endeavors. So you're making me more focused and laser focused on the objectives that I have as well. So thanks so much. And as usual, we run out of time. We might have to do an episode 2.
I would love to. Anything I could do to help. Thank you.
Good. And I want to thank all of the viewers for tuning in. I know that we had Justin and Jason and Donna and some people I could see hopped on and they didn't comment, but I do see you and I appreciate it. And I always end the show the same way, thanking the man behind the camera, behind the scenes. So thank you, Chris, for all of your help and for keeping the show on track. So you can play us out and we'll see you. We'll see you next week. And if anybody's interested, I'll be on at 10 tonight with the Bo and Joe show. That's more sports oriented. I'm really I'm not the driver or the main. I just kind of sit there and look good. So thanks everybody. So play us out, Chris. Thank you.